It's 3:17 a.m. and I'm sitting cross-legged on my kitchen floor, wearing yesterday's clothes and tomorrow's worries. The apartment is quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator, and this melody that won't leave me alone keeps circling back like a question I'm afraid to answer. You know that feeling when your body is exhausted, but your mind is running marathons, when sleep feels like surrender and staying awake feels like punishment. That's where I am. That's where this song was born. The thing about insomnia is that it strips you down to your bones. All the noise of the day, the performing, the productivity, the endless scroll of everyone else's highlight reels, it all falls away. And what's left is just you and your thoughts, having a conversation you've been avoiding for months. I started playing these chords around midnight. Nothing intentional, just fingers finding familiar patterns while my brain tried to make sense of why I couldn't sleep again. Fourth night this week, the melody came first. This descending line that felt like watching something beautiful fall apart in slow motion. 3 a.m. confessions in an empty room, playing songs for walls that never listen. That's how it started. But I didn't know yet what I was confessing to. See, I'd been telling myself the story for weeks that I couldn't sleep because of stress, because of deadlines, because Mercury was in retrograde, or whatever cosmic excuse felt convenient. But sitting there in the dark, fingers moving across strings, worn smooth by years of late night conversations with myself, I realized I wasn't avoiding sleep. I was avoiding dreams. Long pause. There's something about the space between wake and sleep where all your careful defenses crumble, where the voice you've been silencing all day gets loud enough to be heard. And my voice, the real one, not the one that says I'm fine when people ask. My voice had been trying to tell me something I didn't want to hear, that I'd been measuring my worth by how little I needed, how little space I took up, how little I asked for. The second verse wrote itself. Been living small to make room for everyone else, shrinking down until I disappear. God, even humming those words now makes my chest tight because it's true, isn't it? We learn so young that being low maintenance is a virtue, that needing less somehow makes us more lovable, more worthy of taking up space in someone else's life. I trace this pattern back through my relationships, my friendships, my career. Always the one who was easygoing, always the one who could work with anything. Never the one who said, actually, this isn't enough for me. You want to know what insomnia really taught me? It taught me that I'd been living my life like I was apologizing for existing, like my needs were inconveniences and my desires were selfish, like the safest way to move through the world was to make myself as small as possible. But at 3 a.m., with nothing but honest darkness and these strings under my fingers, I couldn't hide from the truth anymore. The truth that I was tired, bone deep, soul deep tired, not from lack of sleep, but from carrying this impossible weight of trying to be everything to everyone while being nothing to myself. The bridge came to me around 4 a.m. What if I stopped shrinking? What if I took up space? What if my voice got louder instead of fading away? And I swear something shifted in the room when I sang those words. Like the air got thicker, more honest, like even the walls were holding their breath. Here's what I learned in that kitchen floor cathedral at dawn. Self-worth isn't something you earn by being small. It's not a reward for good behavior or a prize for being low maintenance. It's not contingent on how little trouble you cause or how easily you bend. Self worth is the quiet rebellion of saying, I matter because I exist. It's the radical act of taking up space, not apologetically, not with justification, but simply because you're here and your presence is not a burden. I used to think that needing less made me more valuable, that if I could survive on scraps of attention, crumbs of affection, that somehow made me, I don't know, more evolved, more spiritual, less needy. But that 3 a.m. revelation hit different. I wasn't being evolved. I was being afraid. Afraid that if I asked for what I actually needed, if I showed up as my full self with all my messy, inconvenient humanity, I'd be too much. And being too much felt more terrifying than being not enough. The song ends with a question I'm still learning to answer. If I stopped making myself small, who would I become? I finished writing it as the sun came up, exhausted, but strangely awake in a way I hadn't been in months. And for the first time in weeks, I fell asleep easily. Not because I'd tired myself out, but because I'd finally stopped running from the conversation I needed to have with myself. Insomnia isn't always the enemy. Sometimes it's the friend who sits with you in the dark until you're ready to tell the truth. Sometimes it's the space holder for revelations that can only happen when all the noise stops. And all that's left is you, your heartbeat, and the courage to listen. So here's my 3 a.m. truth offered to your 3 a.m. or your 3 p.m. or whenever you need to hear it. You don't have to earn the right to exist fully. You don't have to shrink to make room for everyone else's comfort. Your needs aren't inconveniences. Your voice isn't too much. And if you've been living small, making yourself easy to love by being easy to overlook, maybe it's time to ask yourself that same question that changed everything for me. If you stop making yourself small, who would you become? And the answer might just keep you up all night, and that might be exactly what you need.